It's December 31st, 1942, and in the gloomy morning twilight off the northern coast of Norway, British destroyer HMS Achates is fighting her way through the bitterly cold Arctic winter. One of 8 small warships escorting a convoy of 12 merchant vessels across the treacherous icy waters of the Barents Sea to deliver crucial supplies to their Soviet allies. Little does Achates' crew know that a far greater danger is just about to rear its head. The British ships have been spotted by the enemy, and now, the much larger German warships Admiral Hipper and Lützow are rapidly racing toward them, along with a team of destroyers, hell-bent on preventing the convoy from reaching its destination. As the Kriegsmarine closes in and the sea erupts in a chaos of salvos, Achates suddenly moves forward alone and starts laying down a thick smokescreen. The diminutive destroyer is severely dwarfed in size and firepower by the heavy cruisers, a British David against the German Goliath, but she is intent on protecting the convoy, no matter the cost. Achates knows her odds of survival are minimal, but as the enemy shells come raining down, she firmly stands her ground, determined to hold on just long enough for her companions to escape, even if it means making the ultimate sacrifice. Ordered in March 1928 and laid down at Clydebank 6 months later, HMS Achates was the third of 9 A-class destroyers built for the Royal Navy, created to replace the aging World War I-era V and W classes. Based on the 1926 prototypes HMS Amazon and HMS Ambuscade, these destroyers had a standard displacement of about 1,350 tons, increasing to around 1,773 tons at full load, and measured approximately 323 feet in length with a beam of 32 feet 3 inches and a draft of 12 feet, making them average-sized destroyers of their era. The hulls of the A-class destroyers were designed for high speed and good seakeeping abilities. A raised forecastle provided greater buoyancy at the bow, significantly improving the performance in rough seas. This would make them more effective in adverse weather conditions, essential for operations in the often tumultuous North Atlantic and Arctic waters. Propelled by 2 Parsons-geared steam turbines and 3 Admiralty 3-drum boilers, the A-class destroyers produced 34,000 shaft horsepower, enabling them to achieve a maximum speed of 35 knots, which was quite fast compared to other destroyers. Their high speed allowed them to perform various tasks, including escorting larger ships, hunting submarines, and engaging enemy surface vessels. Their operational range was about 4,800 nautical miles at a cruising speed of 15 knots, thanks to a fuel capacity of 470 tons of oil. This extensive range was an advantage for long-distance operations, enabling them to escort convoys across vast stretches of ocean without frequent refueling. The primary armament of the A-class destroyers included 4 4.7-inch QF Mark 9 guns in single mounts, capable of both anti-surface and limited anti-aircraft roles. Initially, they were equipped with 2 40mm pom-pom anti-aircraft guns. They also carried 2 quadruple torpedo tube mounts for 21-inch torpedoes and were equipped with depth charge throwers and rails for anti-submarine warfare, typically carrying around 20 to 35 depth charges. They also had smoke generators to create protective screens, a notable feature that Achates would later use to great effect. Completed in March 1930, Achates was commissioned into the 3rd Destroyer Flotilla attached to the Mediterranean Fleet. Over the next 9 years, she sailed from port to port, including a notable voyage to South America, accompanying the aircraft carrier HMS Eagle in 1931, as well as a 1937 mission to repatriate the crew of the captured Spanish Republican steamer Aragon to Malaga during the Spanish Civil War. When World War II broke out in September 1939, Achates was sent to Portsmouth to join the 18th Destroyer Flotilla and began carrying out anti-submarine patrols and convoy escort duties in the English Channel. Throughout 1940, Achates was moved around several times, attached to various units in the Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea, with the primary mission of protecting convoys from the constant threat of German U-boats and aircraft to ensure the safe passage of vital supplies. On August 10th, along with her fellow destroyers HMS Antelope and HMS Fortune, she received a distress call from the armed merchant cruiser HMS Transylvania, which had been torpedoed by the German U-boat U-56 off the coast of Ireland. Responding swiftly, the 3 destroyers navigated the hazardous waters to reach the site of the sinking vessel, where upon arrival, the crew of Achates worked tirelessly to rescue as many survivors as possible from the frigid waters, deploying lifeboats and life rafts to bring the stranded men aboard, despite the ongoing threat of further U-boat attacks. The successful rescue operation underscored the critical role of destroyers like Achates in providing immediate assistance during wartime emergencies and highlighted the strong camaraderie and professionalism among the crews of the Royal Navy. On November 2nd, as part of the 4th Escort Group, Achates was tasked with protecting convoy OB-237. As they cut through the Atlantic, Antelope, also part of the group, suddenly came under attack from the German submarine U-31. Antelope responded with depth charge attacks against the enemy U-boat while sending out an alert to bring in additional support from the nearby escorts. Despite facing issues with a malfunctioning sonar system, limiting her ability to detect and accurately target the submarine, Achates rushed to her sister ship's defense, taking up position and maintaining pressure on U-31, while Antelope continued its aggressive depth charge attacks. The damage inflicted by the explosions forced the submarine to surface before her crew decided to scuttle the vessel to prevent its capture. The incident represented another great example of destroyer teamwork between Achates and Antelope. In May 1941, along with the destroyers Electra, Antelope, Anthony, Echo, and Icarus, Achates escorted the mighty battlecruiser Hood and the battleship Prince of Wales. Their mission was to cover the northern approaches and thwart any breakout attempts into the Atlantic by the German battleship Bismarck and the cruiser Prince Eugen. The fleet aimed to watch the Denmark Strait, providing crucial support for the cruisers Norfolk and Suffolk. As evening fell on May 23rd, the weather began to deteriorate, the rough seas making it increasingly challenging for Achates and the other destroyers to keep pace with the larger Hood and Prince of Wales. Just after 2 a.m., the destroyers were ordered to continue their search to the north, while the two capital ships turned south. At 5:35 a.m., the tense calm was shattered when Hood sighted the German forces. Moments later, the Germans also spotted the British ships, and at 5:52 a.m., the exchange of fire commenced. The battle's decisive blow came quickly, when at approximately 6 a.m., Hood was hit by a massive explosion, sinking the ship within minutes, a massive loss for the Royal Navy. In the aftermath, Admiral Wake Walker aboard Norfolk directed the destroyers, including Achates, to search for survivors, while the cruisers continued to shadow the German ships. Electra was the first to arrive at the site of Hood's sinking about 2 hours later. The crew of Electra, hoping to find many survivors, prepared scrambling nets, heaving lines, and lifebelts ready to be deployed. However, the grim reality soon set in as they discovered only 3 survivors amidst the wreckage. Electra rescued these men and continued searching the area, but found no more survivors. Achates left the area empty-handed, along with the other destroyers, a somber end to a dark moment in British naval history. 2 months later, another tragedy would strike. This time, Achates herself would be the victim. Assigned to a task force for a carrier raid on the strategic German-held ports of Kirkenes in Norway and Petsamo in Finland, while preparing for the mission off the coast of Iceland, the destroyer experienced engine failure due to fuel contamination and inadvertently hit a British mine. The resulting explosion proved catastrophic, blowing off her bow, including the A-gun, as well as claiming the lives of 63 crew members and injuring 25 more. In the aftermath, HMS Anthony came to the aid of the crippled Achates, towing her to Seyðisfjörður, Iceland. Temporary repairs were made, and on August 7th, the tug Assurance began towing Achates towards safer waters. However, on August 10th, a fierce storm hit, causing further damage to the already weakened ship. The storm's fury fractured longitudinal members and cracked the upper deck plating, forcing the vessels to seek refuge in Skagafjörður in the Faroe Islands for additional emergency repairs. Despite the relentless challenges, Achates eventually made it to the Tyne on August 24th, 1941, where she spent the next 8 months undergoing intensive repairs. During this time, she was also given an increase in anti-aircraft armament, replacing the original 2-pounder pom-poms with more effective 20mm Oerlikon cannons. She was fitted with Type 286M radar for surface search and Type 285 radar for fire control, improving her ability to detect and engage enemy targets under poor visibility conditions. She was finally recommissioned in April 1942, in time to spend the summer escorting Arctic convoys between Britain and the Soviet Union. In November, HMS Achates was sent to take part in Operation Torch, the Anglo-American invasion of French North Africa, that aimed to gain control of North Africa from Vichy French forces and establish a strategic foothold for further operations in Europe. Achates was initially tasked with escorting an assault convoy destined for Oran, Algeria, ensuring the safe passage of troops and equipment necessary for the invasion. Upon arrival at the landing zones, Achates was detached to provide a protective escort for aircraft carriers supporting the landings, a critical role given the importance of air cover for the amphibious operations. On November 8th, while deployed off Oran, Achates detected a Vichy French submarine attempting to challenge the Allied landings. Achates launched an aggressive depth charge attack. The effectiveness of her assault was soon evident as oil and air bubbles rose to the surface, accompanied by debris. She and fellow destroyer HMS Westcott are credited with the sinking of the Vichy French submarines Argonaut and Action that day, though it is not clear which ship sank which submarine. Whatever the truth, her actions contributed to the success of Operation Torch, a major victory for the Allies. After Operation Torch, Achates headed back to Britain, and on Christmas Day 1942, she set sail as part of the escort for convoy JW-51B, embarking on a treacherous journey from Loch Ewe in Scotland to Murmansk in the Soviet Union. Loaded with important supplies, crucial to the Allied war effort, the convoy navigated the perilous Arctic waters toward its destination. It was the middle of winter, when the sun never rises over the Arctic Circle. Temperatures fell well below zero, frequent snow squalls limited visibility, and floating ice and gale-force winds placed ships in grave danger. Yet Achates and her companions' problems were far greater than the weather. Unbeknownst to them, the Germans had received reports of their presence and planned to prevent the convoy from reaching Murmansk, sending Admiral Hipper, a heavy cruiser, and Lützow, described as either a heavy cruiser or a pocket battleship, accompanied by 6 large destroyers, to launch a coordinated attack on the unsuspecting British ships. The German strategy was to split their force. Admiral Hipper and 3 destroyers would strike from the northwest, luring the convoy escorts away. This diversion would allow Lützow to sweep in from the south and strike the convoy with minimal resistance. On the morning of December 31st, 1942, Admiral Hipper's group began its assault, initiating what would become known as the Battle of the Barents Sea. Though the British had a larger number of vessels on their side, their smaller, less heavily armed ships were no match for the serious firepower of the German heavy cruiser and large destroyers. The chances of making it past the enemy ships unscathed seemed depressingly slim. Surrendering was not an option. All of a sudden, Achates went surging forward, putting herself between the German warships and the convoy she was charged with protecting. As she did so, she began laying down a dense smokescreen to obscure the merchant vessels from the enemy's view. If she could only keep the Kriegsmarine occupied for long enough, the convoy might just be able to escape. A feigned torpedo attack by some of the other British destroyers prompted Admiral Hipper to momentarily retreat, but she soon returned, seriously damaging the escort commander's flagship, HMS Onslow, and leaving the escort group's commander, Captain Robert Sherbrooke, badly wounded. She then pulled north of the convoy, finding the minesweeper HMS Bramble, which she sank with help from destroyer Friedrich Eckholt. She later turned her attention back to Achates. Salvos of heavy shells poured down, striking her repeatedly. The casualties rapidly stacked up, as 40 men lost their lives, including its leader, Lieutenant Commander H.A.T. Johns. Despite the onslaught and increasing flooding in the boiler and engine rooms, her crew resolute in their mission to protect the convoy. The hits caused the destroyer to list to port, but their defiance held firm until a critical blow severed their power. The frantic damage control efforts could no longer prevent the inevitable. The crew on board Achates signaled to the nearby trawler Northern Gem to come to her assistance, but just as the trawler drew near, Achates turned on her side and started sinking into the frigid sea. All the lifeboats had been destroyed, and most of the life rafts were riddled with holes. With no other choice, Achates' surviving crew members jumped into the icy waves. The cold was so intense that it numbed all sensation, a small mercy to the wounded as they swam toward the trawler. Miraculously, 81 of Achates' men were hauled aboard the Northern Gem. Another 113 were not so lucky. As the firing ceased, in a final farewell, Achates reared up and slid stern first to the seabed. Fortunately, Achates' incredible efforts had bought enough time for distant cruisers HMS Sheffield and HMS Jamaica to arrive on the scene to assist HMS Onslow, which fought on despite its wounded captain and major damage. Though Achates was gone, the smokescreen she had created continued providing cover for the convoy, and Lützow's attempts to fire at the merchant ships proved ineffective. Sheffield and Jamaica took on the enemy ships between them, damaging Admiral Hipper and sinking Friedrich Eckholt, which prompted the Germans to retreat. Though they'd had the Allies outgunned and outnumbered, they could not break their spirit. In the end, not a single ship from the convoy was lost. The sacrifice of HMS Achates and her crew, along with the valor of the other escorts, ensured the convoy's safe passage. As commander of the escort group, Captain Sherbrooke was awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest and most prestigious decoration of the British honor system, for his courage and leadership skills. The resolve and bravery displayed by Achates and her fellow ships during the Battle of the Barents Sea became a shining example of Allied determination in the face of overwhelming odds.